Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. One of our favorite TV shows, Fargo, is in the middle of its third season. Joining us today from the show, she plays Nikki, the bubbly femme fatale on the program this season. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I love that you just accepted this part, not knowing anything about the character, but it's just like, you want to do Fargo season 3? No, Holly asked you. Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much just jumped at the opportunity because Noah and I had been talking for a couple of years about wanting to find something for me on the show, and it just sort of never materialized. Scheduling, I was never available, and I was always sort of pulling my hair out, you know, for
You'd
the
watch
star.
you'd watch the episodes of the season, and you go, no.
Yeah, exactly. So by this time, I was available, and so there was no way, no matter what the part was, I was like, I'll do it, because I learned from watching the last 2 seasons that there is no such thing as a bad part on this show. So, and he writes female roles so well. So I had no fears, and it's the first time I've ever done that, because normally I'm like, okay, let's read it, let's make sure there's some substance here, let's make sure, and I mean, there was nothing to contemplate. It was a very easy decision.
So he sent you then episode 1, or were there more episodes that he sent you?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had, like I said, I had said yes before I even read it, and I remember.
So is that kind of tense, opening like, okay, well,
yeah,
what is he?
I mean, it was exciting, but I think I thought I knew sort of the type of role that I would play, because we had talked about, you know, things before. I thought I would play a cop. I thought I'd be the sort of sweet Minnesota nice girl, you know. And so reading it, I was like, oh, no, this isn't what I thought I was going to be doing. But I mean, it was a pleasant surprise. I just didn't expect him to see me in this role.
Yeah.
And then once I started doing it, I was just like, oh my God, Noah's, of course he's this genius. You know, he knew that this was actually totally suited to me, but more so than I knew, I think. And it's been so much fun to play.
So at first it might have been no, but it kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't have said no.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But
you're not
but
like throwing.
Yeah, no, but I was sort of. It took me a little while to wrap my head around, because I wasn't sure initially reading it if, you know, is she supposed to be manipulative? Are you supposed to not like this girl? You know, does she really love this guy? Where's she coming from?
Yeah, where's she going?
Where's she
in
going?
the next 9
yeah,
episodes?
Is it going to turn out that she's this, you know, conniving evil person? You
She's
know,
got an ice pick under her pillow.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think in our first lunch we had about it, he told me that, you know, this is a real couple with real love, and there's obviously she's got a dark side, but this love is real, and something that I felt like that was something I could really hang my hat on once I knew that.
Yeah.
And it all sort of came together in a much easier way.
Yeah, you're not sure in that first episode watching it if
Yeah.
Nikki and Ray, if Nikki really loves Ray, and I understand that was your first question.
Yeah.
And when you got that answer yes, then you could play her in a much more kind of sweet way.
Yeah, I think it just opened her up so much more, because obviously her actions are her actions, and that's going to tell you a lot about her, you know, as it is. You know, what she does in the first episode is like, whoa, this is a really interesting person with a very complicated moral compass. But she has this whole other side to her that's very optimistic and hopeful and romantic and in love. And so the juxtaposition of all those qualities just gave me so much more to play with, and so many more places to go with her, which was very exciting for me.
Have you gotten much response to that scene with the air conditioner?
Oh, yeah.
That's like a defining, I mean, just such a great scene.
Yeah, it's so
where,
fantastic.
you know, something needs to be done immediately, action needs to be taken about this guy who might, you know, endanger their freedom. And so she sees the air conditioner, very decisive.
Yeah, very decisive. You certainly learn a lot about her as a character from that scene. I mean, you kind of learn almost everything you need to know, which was one of the great things about this script. Was I've gotten a lot of questions about, you know, what I asked Noah about the character, about the story, and I mean, that was kind of my only question, was whether or not she really loves Ray, because everything else is so alive on the page that you just it doesn't leave you with a lot of questions. You kind of dive in, and it feels so real and so layered and rich and interesting that you just get to kind of take it on and make it your own and be inside that world, which is such a treat.
And when Ray says, you know, I've never killed anyone before, life's a journey.
I know, it's such
I mean,
good
that's
line.
just like, just such a vintage Fargo
Yes,
line.
I know. It's so quintessential. It's
Yeah.
like, it's so wonderful to get to say those words. It just feels so good.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of responses to the air conditioning scene, and then a lot of responses to the tampon
Oh yeah,
scene.
yeah,
Was
yeah.
the other one that, I mean, I expected a big response, but I think I got even more of a response than I was expecting.
And
on
when
that
you say
one.
response, like what are you?
Shock, a mix of shock, disgust, and also like admiration. Like people just are like, she is so badass, and that's what I felt when I read it. I was just like, this woman is so cool of a, you know, just as a
Right.
character, like so much fun to play, that she's just so brash and you know, in your face, and you know, whoever she sees as an enemy, she's going to do whatever she has to do to kind of send a message to that person. And I thought it was like the ultimate
Yeah.
message
yeah,
to send.
Yeah. It's interesting watching that first episode because initially there are some similarities between Nikki and Peggy,
Yeah.
the Kirsten Dunst character, because they're both optimistic. They both kind of very decisive in acting, and they kind of steer their men a little bit.
Yeah.
But you kind of quickly see that, you know, I mean, they're different. Did you see that? Kind of feel that initially a little bit?
Initially, I did. I was actually a slight worry for me that I was going to maybe play this character in a similar way, or that I was going
Right.
to have those ideas in my head.
They have different styles.
They have different
for sure.
styles,
Yeah.
and also I think in talking to Noah, that was one of the other things that we did talk about, which was that Peggy is a little bit in the clouds, you know, and even though Nikki is also big into visualizing and sort of, you know, type of person who would have read The Secret and like believes in, you know, making their dreams come true and all this stuff, but her feet are very much on the ground. She is strategizing and thinking and planning and plotting in a very real world, street smart kind of way. So she's not really, she's not crazy. She's just very, very driven and ambitious and willing to do, you know, what she needs to do.
Yeah. Ewan McGregor has some challenges in this season.
Yes.
I mean, you know, big scene with you and him in that first episode is the bathtub scene, but where he has to like be kind of overweight, sort of
Yeah.
out of shape in this character, but in the other character, very different look. I mean, what was his process like in kind of going back and forth?
Yeah, I mean, that was funny because I think for both of us, that scene was like, you know, it was a lot of pressure on you know, what we were going to look
Yeah, I read
like
a quote
in
where
that
you
scene.
were saying, I didn't expect to be going to the gym
Yeah,
doing
no,
squats
totally.
for Fargo.
Because that
you
was
know?
one of the first things that Noah, when we had lunch with him, he was like, "So I'm going to be we're going to do this scene, and you're going to stand, and I'm going to be filming it from behind. So just so you know." And I was like, "I'll just get the salad, thank you." Which
Right.
I don't care too much about it, but in a scene where the people are supposed to be looking at you as though you're some sort of, you know, distracting enough to to do what happens in the
Right.
scene. So that was a little bit of pressure for me. And then for Ewan, it was the opposite. Like he had all this pressure for that scene to really to sell his look, because
Yeah.
he's, for the most part, in the character of Ray, he's wearing a somewhat of a fat suit.
But you can't do that.
You can't do that in a bathroom scene. So for that scene, he was really piling on the French fries and the burgers and the ice cream. And I think at that point he was getting pretty uncomfortable,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So it was nice once
you-
that scene was
yeah.
done, we both were able to kind of like relax a little bit more.
So before that, your experiences at craft service is very different.
Very different,
Yeah.
completely different. And then as Emmett, he's got he wears Spanx and just sort of goes the opposite direction. But I think as the season went on, you know, he was able to kind of rely a little bit more on the fat suit and not have to worry so much about gorging
Yeah.
himself, which is funny that can become, I mean, it sounds nice, but that can become as tedious as dieting, you know, trying to keep weight on. So I think he was happy to have that over with.
What did you think? I mean, so 2 episodes, and then last week's episode, just kind of a standalone thing, goes to Hollywood. You're not in it. What did you think of that? Just watching it as a viewer.
I thought it was so beautiful. I mean, I loved it when I read it as well, but watching the episodes is always so fascinating, even the ones I'm in, because Noah tends to change things in the edit a little bit or restructure things. He might put a scene that was at the end at the beginning or move things around a little. And so that was the case with 3 as well, where it was different than what I remember reading. And it was like this beautiful, profound, sad, funny, moving little movie, you know. And I love that that's a part of the show, and I almost, you know, it almost seems like it's a different show, but
Yeah.
a show that I would totally watch and
Yeah.
and love.
Yeah.
And I love that he's, again, bringing in so many different elements, but it still feels like it's within the Fargo universe. And I'm continuously amazed at how he's able to expand that further and further away from the source material, but it still feels like Fargo. It's kind of amazing.
Can you offer any teaser for tonight's episode?
Tonight, well, everybody's back.
Yeah.
We're all back. Swango and Stussy are back, back at it. They're up to some more shenanigans, I'll
Yeah.
say. But it's a fantastic episode. It really is. Particularly, I think it's a great episode for David Thewlis, who's, just an incredible actor, and the character that he's playing this season is
Yeah.
so fascinating.
Interesting.
And you'll learn a lot more about him this episode, which is very exciting.
Are there any bridge tournaments in tonight's episode?
No, bridge kind of takes a back seat once you throw an air conditioner on someone's head. Bridge starts to seem a little
Yeah,
trivial.
yeah.
So it's still
They don't have quite as much time. Things start to
Exactly.
move forward.
Things start
in
to
a
move
different way,
forward,
yeah.
and so Bridge starts to become a little bit more in the rear view of it all. But it says so much about them as a couple and about her as a person. So I think Bridge is always going to have it's always going to be a big theme
Yeah.
of their lives and of the story.
It was funny because the first bridge scene, they're playing, they're going out, and they're tossing out this terminology. And I'm just like, I think that's bridge, but I'm not really sure.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't know the difference.
It's like you could have been speaking
gibberish.
Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you and your husband aren't going out on
God,
the
no.
weekends.
I really thought I had hopes for myself
Yeah.
when I first got the script, and I got the script in, I want to say September, and we shot in January, and I still just had like the first episode was basically all I had for all those months. So
Oh, right, yeah.
I convinced myself I was going to learn bridge. I was going to be a bridge expert. That was what I really focused on, and then I took a couple lessons, and it became clear almost instantly that I was never ever going to learn how to play bridge.
So you took a couple of lessons.
I
love
did,
that.
I did, and I went. You and I went and watched a tournament, and that turned out to be the most informative because then we were able to watch how people interact, what they look
Right.
like when they're playing bridge, so that we could pretend that.
Are
we
there
know how to-
tells in bridge like poker too?
I
I
mean,
can't
a little bit, but it's more.
like
It's
like a friendly sort of.
Yeah, but in the tournament it was interesting because everybody knew each other. Teams have been teams for years and years. There was drama. It was like a very friendly. Everybody's got cookies and coffee, and and it's all like plastic tables and stuff. But it was also a little bit cutthroat. You
Right.
could tell that like there was drama between
Yeah.
teams. If this person screwed this person over, and so picking up on all people, they take it really really seriously. So
Yeah.
interesting to see at certain levels how cutthroat it can get.
Well, we have some questions from readers. Let me toss a couple of those out. You're talking badass character before. Abby asks that between Laurel Healy, Michelle, and now Nikki, you've played some badass, well-written women lately. Do you look for these roles, or are they just finding you these days?
I think it's a mutual thing, I think,
Yeah.
which is really nice. I feel like I've spent a lot of time looking for those roles and really sort of banging on doors trying to get them.
Yeah.
And I think I've done enough of them now that I've gotten to a place where people sort of associate me with a certain type of character, and I love that. And so it makes me really happy that
This is a type that you would like to be.
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
This is what I'm drawn to, and now I don't have to fight quite as hard to get people to bring those to me.
Right.
So it's a nice place. I still have to fight for things, but I also get really lucky with things like this that just kind of fall into my lap because I've worked hard to like show that this is kind of what I want to do. So I think that message is starting to get out there.
Yeah. Paige wants to know, do you have a favorite character from any season of Fargo? I'm assuming season 3 is pretty dear to your
It
heart.
is. I know.
So
Season
maybe
3 is.
go back to 1 and 2. Is there a...
No, I know. I'm so Swango and Stussy. I really hope are gonna stay favorites for everybody out
Yeah.
there. It's hard. Both seasons were so incredible. I loved the couple of season 2, Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons, just as a couple together. I thought they were so sweet, and I was so invested in that relationship. But it's really hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say that for now, but I mean, from moment to moment, it could change because literally every single role and every character was so beautiful and lovely and perfect.
I hope this season your couple ends up, you know, in a better
Right,
place.
right. I know.
It's
You
very
never
early
can-
on.
It's very early days.
I mean, if you go by past history,
Well, Fargo, you know,
Yeah.
the Fargo way is you just don't, you can't ever know what's going to happen to
Right.
anybody that you love
can't,
on the
you know,
show. You
fingers
don't know.
crossed, right? Chris wants to know what you like most and what you like least about acting.
Oh, God.
That's a big open-ended. Get a lot
It's a
of big
big
open-ended
question.
questions. Well, let's start with
Most.
least. Come on.
Least. I guess least would be maybe. I guess.
Waking up.
Yeah, the hours maybe. Maybe the hours. I guess maybe occasionally the lack of privacy isn't
Yeah.
fun. I don't have to deal with it nearly as much as a lot of people do, but the little glimpses of it I do get, I can see that that's not fun.
Yeah.
But there's so much about it to love that even those things kind of get overshadowed by the highs of it, which for me are like the connections I make with people both on and off of set are so beautiful and valuable, and the roles that I play at the height of what I'm doing can really change me as a person and make
Yeah.
me better. And so I feel incredibly lucky that I get to have a job that does that for me.
Yeah. We've been asking everyone who's come in these same few questions here, so I'll put them to you. What is the last show that you binge watched?
The last one would either be Baskets or Girls. We're sort of binging them back and forth at the same time.
Yeah.
I love both of them, particularly Baskets right now. Louis Anderson on Baskets is just like one of the most just lovely, heartbreaking things I've seen in a long time. So that's one of my
Did
favorites.
you finish season 2?
Did, yes.
I love season 2.
So good, so good.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, he was great in season 1,
Yeah.
but I mean, even deeper.
They just gave him such a beautiful arc to play
Yeah.
in season 2 and really kind of took over that show.
Yeah.
And I saw him recently at like a photo shoot for actors on shows, and got to tell him how much I love him on the show, which was very cool.
Good. If you could go back and be on any classic television show, which one would you like to be on?
Oh boy. Oh, that is really hard. This is a silly one. It only lasted for a season, but it was something that kind of, at the age that I first started acting, was part of what made me want to act.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Claire Danes on My So-Called Life. That's what I wanted.
good-
That's what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I watched it and I was just like, I wanted to be her in life and on the screen, and it just really resonated so much with me. So I was like, 10, I think, when that show aired, but I've seen that in its entirety more times than I can count, that
Yeah.
whole season.
What was your first acting job?
My first professional job, I guest starred on a show called Touched by an Angel when I was 12 years old. So that was my first job, and it was amazing, and I couldn't believe that people were so nice and that you got all this free candy, and it just was like a pizza at the end of the day.
Back
It
to
was
craft
just-
services.
Yeah,
or-
it all comes back to craft services. But it was like it was so beyond, I'd always wanted to do it, and I had been acting on stage a little bit and in school, and I loved it so much, and then to get to find out that you could get paid to do it and people were so nice, it was
Yeah.
just like, my mind was completely blown.
Did you learn anything from these early jobs that you've like built on or kept?
I guess the main thing that I hold on to is remembering how much fun it was for me when I started, and the reason that I started it, which was that
Yeah.
I just loved it. I loved every second of it, and so I try to remember that and hold on to that in the moments, like we're saying, when the hours are long, or you have little things that maybe feel somewhat negative. It's like, well, I'm so lucky that I'm doing the thing that made me happy when I was
Yeah.
a kid. So that's a really amazing thing.
I can't wait. There's still 7 more episodes. It's crazy.
Oh, there's
I
a
have
lot.
a feeling there's going to be a lot of twists and turns.
Yes.
It's like
Yes,
I need
you would
to,
be
we
right.
need to get on the phone after it's all done
Yeah.
to suss it all
I know.
out.
It's going to be a lot to process, I will say. Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And for more of these conversations, please go to latimes.com. Thanks for watching.